starting this as a response to um to game trailers review of Dragon Ball Xenoverse. Now, to be quite honest, I would say that honestly, they do not. I think they did not really cover the game as much as other reviewers that I've seen on YouTube. Because one, I get the fact that they got other games to do, and really, with it being the new generation and all that other bullshit, they like to basically skip over anime games or skip over the new shit, being basically the next generation shooter. However, uh, however, I felt like to me they should not have given Xenoverse a 6 in score. They should have at least given it like a 7, a 8, because the one thing I think they do not realize is that the game, beyond the fact of that it's a fighter, it's like that of a giant RPG. You gotta basically level up, get the right equipment, get the right shit, and not to mention the fact that there are, I would say, grand total of about 100 and some side quests, maybe even 80 some side quests in the game. Plus the fact that two secret sagas, about three extra characters you can wish back with the Dragon Balls, which they totally missed, and the fact that you, as a player, can can actually get healing items to heal your character in mid combat. Yes, some of the fights do get harder, but that's what the fuck the level grinding is for. That's what it's for. And yet they say, oh, the story's shallow. First of all, you guys are they are complete idiots, because they said that Toa was the main villainess of the story, and you bozos couldn't be any more wrong about that. The main villain of the damn game story is demon god Demigra. Toa and Mira are nothing more than Demigra's little bitches running around the timeline carrying out his bidding. They are his puppets. They are his puppets carrying out his will. He manipulated them into doing whatever he wanted them to do. However, they totally flippin' missed that, didn't they? But then again, guess what? That's what happens. That's what happens when you usually have mega corporations doing doing reviews on video games and missing the entire story. Granted, if you really are interested in trying to get Dragon Ball Xenoverse, I would say go for the game, because not because you're a Dragon Ball fan, but go for it for the simple fact of two reasons. One, you're a fan of fighting games, and two, you're a fan of RPGs. If you're a fan of both of these, then that's good. Me, I've been playing friggin' RPGs since I started in KOTOR. Yeah, granted, me being a '90s kid, I should have started with Final Fantasy, but let's face it, I didn't have the attention span to play Final Fantasy. But I will say that I do have one personal gripe against Xenoverse, and that is the servers, which granted can't be helped because, like I said, when devs tested the servers, they only tested the PlayStation ones. They did not test those of the 360 or the PlayStation. Well, they may have tested the PlayStation 3 servers and the PlayStation 4 servers. They did not test the 360 ones. If they did, they wouldn't have all those bugs and glitches and all this other stuff in it. I'm not sure if the PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4 have the same issues. If they do, it's not a big deal. I'm sure in the future with DLC and all that other stuff they'll fix it. But also, the one thing I would like to see done is that these next little reviewers that review Xenoverse, I would like to see the grand possibility of someone who is reviewing Xenoverse to do it with a great deal of respect. Like they actually review the shit like it's supposed to be reviewed. Not just like, oh, we're just gonna review another Dragon Ball game. Let's move on and get this bullshit out of the way. That's not how you review a game. When you review one, it has to be 100% the way I think that would not only appeal to fellow Dragon Ball fans, but to appeal to those who are interested in RPGs and fighting games. And guess what? If you go to another reviewer, 9 times out of 10, we're still waiting on what GameSpot say and what IGN says. And hell, I would laugh my ass off if both GameSpot and IGN gave the game a six. Gave the game a 7 and an 8, and not because they're Dragon Ball fans, but because of the fact that they thought the game was good and it was one of the best games in the series. Granted, those of Metacritic haven't done it yet either, which I do find quite hilarious. But I would imagine that they haven't had the time nor the patience. Plus the fact that yes, they gotta figure out what new games coming out, what new games they gotta do. They still gotta. Some of them still gotta do order of 1886. Some people still gotta finish that shit. Which, to be quite honest, I kind of knew that game was gonna fuck itself up. I kind of knew it was. Why? Because one, it's a AAA game. One that tries to play out like a cinematic movie. Granted, it tried. Number two, it used combat physics of yesteryear games when it could have done something completely unique and new and done all sorts of new stuff. But it can't be helped. However, back on the Xenoverse, I feel that with me liking it, because I have been playing like the game for the past, like, shoot, I would say, like past couple of weeks, maybe like 4 days, 4 days since I started. Because the story mode doesn't take that long, but I know the side quest for me takes a hell of a lot longer. But for me, I think that Xenoverse is not that bad of a game. If I was reviewing it under a professional company, I would have given the game approximately like a 7 or 8, just because of what it is. I would not give it a 6 and say, oh, the story's mediocre because it's the same old thing. You fuckers didn't really pay attention to the story then. Because y'all said that Toa's the main villainess when she's not, when it's fucking Demigra. Demigra is the main person. While Toa, Toa and Mira gets maybe two, 3/3 of the main saga, main story, Demigra is the one that steals the show because he was the one who controlled them and controlled the whole time bullshit. He manipulated all their asses. Why? Because he's a demon god. The only reason why they said that Toa and Mira showed up because they were 2/3 into the story. They didn't go all the way in it. If they did, they would have learned of Demigra, they would have learned of the whole demon thing, and they would have learned of everything else as well. But, like I said, what else can you possibly expect of a company that is responsible for doing a Japanese, for reviewing a Japanese game, especially one that doesn't, especially ones that basically is like, oh, it's just another Dragon Ball game. Why waste our time on something like this when we got other big name games like Order 1886 or what other little like niche games out there that the masses are gonna get. Because that's how I think that they review their games, is basically looking through that little like mini hourglass of theirs and just basically say, you know what, this game sucks and it's gonna suck. Now to me, when it comes down to Xenoverse, three things three things that I will say this, because this is almost like a response and mini rant, almost like a response and a review of Xenoverse. I would say three things on Xenoverse right now. One, the story is definitely unique. The story, the music, and the gameplay. Yes, the game is sort of like Battle of Z2, but it's a little better. It's a little better because one, it's a lot faster. Two, you get to create your own race. Three, not your own race, your own character from the five races. And not to mention, the music is definitely good. Voice acting, despite of course the English version being maybe 2, 3 seconds behind the Japanese version, is not really all that bad. It's kind of to be expected. To be expected, considering that when we get stuff, if it's not Final Fantasy, Kingdom Hearts, or or any like Japanese import games that come down here that are getting an English translation and English voice cast. If it's not that, it's usually going to be 2 to 3 seconds behind what the Japanese are usually done, depending on who the company is. Namely, if it's Funimation, then yeah, that sort of thing happens. Now, as far as gameplay, the leveling up system, yes, it is hard, but granted, it's not that bloody hard. Come on. I mean, you either got two options with that shit. Two. The first, you could either basically do the offline quests on your own with a bunch of NPCs, because guess what? They say that most of the NPCs don't help you, but that's a lot of horseshit. That's a lot of horseshit because when I did one of the missions with Goku and Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta, I ended up getting my ass handed to me by Ginyu of all people, and Goku was the one who came to my aid more times than I can count, and Vegeta did. They both came to my aid to help me out. So what GameSpot say is it's a load of horseshit. It's a really big load of horseshit. Because Goku definitely helps you. I don't know about the other characters, but I'm pretty sure they do. If you're not, that is, if you're not a higher level, like 80 already or something. But the other characters definitely help you, depending on who you are. Like if you got a master under like Cell, for example, like I am um, they'll literally come to your aid and help you out in the game, which I've had happen to me because I was actually trying to beat a mission involving Frieza, which didn't exactly go in my favor, I thought. But afterwards, which afterwards I would say that, for the company that is known as Game Trailers, I do sometimes like their reviews, but I feel like their review of Xenoverse is so half-hearted that they didn't really go into specifics. Because if you actually go to other users who have gotten the game either through a Japanese import or through the English or had gotten the English translation version, that's usually what I think most people are going to get, or rather when they review it for the simple fact that they have spent hours upon hours playing the game. Because at best, I would say Xenoverse clocks in between the online play, the story, and the what's the name? I would say it's about roughly 60 or so hours into the game, depending. Or better yet, not even 60. I would say it's about 40 hours into the game, depending on how much it is that a person does in a day. Right now, my current character is at 40, and I have yet to beat the game. I have yet to get the Dragon Balls. I have yet to unlock 17, Shenron, and Godita. I have yet to do that. But as far as all the other stuff, I feel that they probably should have done it a little differently, and honestly, not rush through the dang thing, because that's what it felt like. It felt like when I saw it was that they're just trying to rush through it and just sweep it. And I'm not saying that as a Dragon Ball fan. I'm saying that as a person who actually does watch game reviews every so often. A guy that pretty much is right now looking up like Japanese imports for an old game system. I'm that kind of person. But at the same time, I'm not saying it as a Dragon Ball Z fan. I'm saying it as a fan of games in general. So to me, not GameStop, but Game Trailers should never really rush through that review. Otherwise, they would have learned that Demigra is the main boss. Yes, there are certain fights that's gonna get some difficulty spikes, but granted, that's the whole point. A lot of today's games are a lot harder than they need to be. So I'll just leave off on that note, and maybe someday someone